the only one who could see. A story of faith, integrity, and miracle, the streets of Okafor Road. The sun was already high in the sky when Adaeze stepped out of the church building and onto Okafor Road, a busy street in the heart of Enugu, a city in southeastern Nigeria. She had a stack of flyers in one hand and a small Bible tucked under her arm. The road was noisy with the sound of motorcycles, car horns, and traders calling out to passers-by. Adaeze did not mind the noise. She loved it. To her, every busy street was an opportunity to share the message she believed in so deeply. She was a young woman of about 26 years old. She was not tall, but she carried herself with a kind of quiet confidence. Her dress was plain and neat, and she always tied her hair back when she went out for evangelism. She had been doing this for the past 2 years, ever since she gave her life to Christ at a crusade organized by Pastor Obina of New Life Evangelical Church. Since then, she had not looked back. She went out every morning to invite people to the church, to share Bible verses, and to tell whoever would listen that God could change their lives. 3 days crusade. Come and be blessed, she called out as she approached a group of men standing near a mechanic shop. Your life will not remain the same. Come and experience the power of God. We are inviting you to our 3-day revival program. God is going to do miracles. Come and see for yourself. Some of the men smiled politely. One of them collected a flyer and looked at it briefly before tucking it into his pocket. Another waved her off without looking up from the car engine he was working on. Adaeze did not feel bad. She'd gotten used to all kinds of reactions. She smiled, thanked the men, and moved on. A few steps ahead, she saw an older woman carrying a heavy bag of vegetables. Good afternoon, Ma, Adaeze greeted, bowing her head slightly. We are inviting you to our 3-day crusade. The God that changes stories will change your story too. Please come and be blessed. The woman smiled and took a flyer. Thank you, my daughter, she said. Adaeze moved on, her steps light. She had almost reached the end of the street when something strange happened. She was in the middle of calling out to a young man in a red shirt when she noticed him looking past her, as if she were not there. She thought nothing of it at first, but then she turned and saw a man standing right beside her. He was an elderly man, dressed in an old brown kaftan. He was looking at her with an expression she could not explain. It was a mix of relief and sadness. Please, she said to him, holding out a flyer, we are inviting you to our crusade. Come and be blessed. The man did not take the flyer. Instead, he said very quietly, can you see me? Adaeze blinked. Of course I can see you. Why are you asking? The man looked around nervously. Why is everyone staring at me like that? Adaeze looked around. The people on the street were not staring at the man. They were staring at her. She looked confused. Nobody is staring at you. They are staring at me. That is because only you can see me, the man said slowly. They are seeing you talk to an empty space. A cold feeling ran down Adaeze's spine. She looked around again. People were definitely watching her with confused faces. Some had started whispering. A woman nearby pulled her child closer, as if something strange was happening. What do you mean, empty space? Adaeze whispered, her voice shaking slightly. The man looked at her with calm eyes. My daughter, I died 2 years ago, he said. I have been looking for someone who could see me. I have been waiting for a long time. Adaeze opened her mouth, but no words came out. One of her fellow church members, a girl named Blessing, grabbed her arm from behind. Sister Adaeze, who are you talking to? Are you okay? Let us go. Another church member, a young man named Chukwudi, said quickly, let us go now. They pulled her away from the spot. But as they walked, Adaeze kept looking back at the old man. He was standing exactly where she had left him, watching her. His eyes were pleading. Please, he called after her, do not walk away. You are the only one who can help my family. Adaeze stopped walking. Blessing and Chukwudi kept urging her to move, telling her she must be tired or stressed. Later, as they distributed the remaining flyers, Chukwudi whispered to Blessing that he thought Sister Adaeze might be communicating with evil spirits. Blessing shook her head and said that Sister Adaeze had always been a very spiritual person and that maybe she was just seeing something in the spirit. Either way, they agreed to keep an eye on her. The house on Mbaiki Street. Adaeze lived with her family in a small 2-bedroom flat on Mbaiki Street, about 10 minutes walk from the church. The flat was on the ground floor of an old building with a cracked wall and a leaking roof that her landlord had been promising to fix for 3 years. But despite its condition, the house was clean inside. Adaeze's mother, whose name was Mrs. Chioma Ease, made sure of that. She swept and mopped every day, even when she was not feeling well. And lately, Mrs. Chioma has not been feeling well at all. For the past several weeks, she'd been complaining of stomach pain that came and went like waves. Some days she could barely get out of bed. She had lost weight, and her skin had taken on a yellowish look that worried her children. But when her daughter Adaeze prayed over her, laid hands on her stomach, and declared that God would heal her, Mrs. Chioma would smile weakly and say nothing. It was a different story with Adaeze's younger sister, Lisa. Lisa was 23 years old and worked at a small POS business just 2 streets away. She was practical and direct, and she had very little patience for what she called her sister's church attitude. When their mother's health began to get worse, Lisa was the first to say what she thought needed to be said. "We need to take Mama to the hospital," Lisa said one evening, standing in the doorway of their mother's room. "This has been going on too long." Adaeze, who was kneeling beside their mother's bed with her Bible open, did not look up. "Holy Spirit, I come against every spirit of sickness in this house. I speak against every spirit of infirmity in the name of Jesus Christ." "Adaeze," Lisa's voice was sharp, "I am talking to you." "Prayer is the master key," Adaeze said, finally looking up. "The Bible says prayer answers all things." Lisa folded her arms. "The Bible also says faith without works is dead. Mama needs a doctor, not just prayers. If we take her to the hospital, yes, it will cost money. But if we leave her here and pray every day while she gets worse, what good is that?" "If we had money for the hospital," Adaeze said quietly, "maybe that would be easy to say. But we do not have money, so we trust God for a miracle." Lisa shook her head. "If you spent less time walking around Okafor Road, giving out flyers, and more time doing something that earns money, we might have that money now." "Lisa, why are you saying that to her?" their mother said from the bed, her voice weak but firm. "Mama, she is right," Adaeze said gently. "Do not stress yourself. I have already committed your health into God's hands. He will do what only he can do. There is food in the kitchen. I will get it for you before I go out." "Go out? Where?" Mrs. Chioma asked. "Evangelism, Mama. It is important. The gospel must be shared." Mrs. Chioma was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, "My daughter, will evangelism put food on the table? Will it pay your bills? You are not a small girl anymore. Your mates are out there building their lives. The Holy Spirit will provide, Mama. When it is time, God will open a door. Nobody speaks a word that comes to pass if God has not said it first." Mrs. Chioma closed her eyes and said nothing more. Their brother, Emeka, was a different problem entirely. He was the eldest of the 3 children, but he behaved like the youngest. He spent most of his days either sleeping in his room or sitting outside with friends, listening to loud music and smoking cigarettes. He was 30 years old and had not held a steady job in 4 years. He had big dreams, or so he said. He was always talking about plans and ideas, but nothing ever came out of them. He called himself a businessman, but nobody had ever seen any business. That evening, when Adaeze went out to the backyard and found him leaning against the wall with a cigarette, she could not keep quiet. "Emeka, you know that smoke is not good for Mama. She is inside there sick, and you are standing here polluting the air." "Mind your own business, Adaeze," he said without moving. "Mama is everyone's business in this house. Are you not worried? Can you not see that this kind of life is doing nothing for you?" "I got plans," he said. "Plans?" Adaeze shook her head. When will the plans become something real? Emeka, I come against every spirit that is holding you down. Every demonic force makes you comfortable in failure. I speak against it in the name of Jesus. Emeka looked at her and laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. Go inside, Adaeze. Go and read your Bible. She left him there, but as she walked away, she said under her breath, God, touch him. Please touch him. The ghost returns. The next morning, Adaeze woke up early, as she always did. She spent an hour praying, then washed her face and dressed. She was about to step out of the house when she nearly screamed. The old man from Okafor Road was standing in her living room. Jesus Christ, she gasped, pressing herself against the doorframe. I am sorry to frighten you, the man said calmly. How did you get in here? How do you know where I live? From inside the house, Emeka's voice came out loud. Grace, what are you shouting about? Who are you talking to this early morning? The man looked at Adaeze. They cannot see me. Only you can. Please do not draw attention. Adaeze lowered her voice. She stepped further into the living room, looking around to make sure no one else was watching. Then she whispered, What do you want from me? Who are you? The man sat down on the edge of a wooden chair. He spoke slowly, as if he had been rehearsing what to say for a long time. My name is Mr. Nwachukwu. I was a trader. I sold building materials in the Ogbete market for many years. I saved a lot of money over my lifetime, more than my family ever knew about. When I died suddenly 2 years ago, I had not told anyone where I kept the money. There was no time. It was a heart attack, very sudden. One moment I was there, the next moment I was not. Adaeze sat down slowly on the other chair, her eyes fixed on him. The money is buried, the man continued. I buried it on the land behind the church building on Agu Street. I had bought that land and was planning to build a shop there, but I never told my family. The money is in a metal container, wrapped in black polythene. It is buried about 2 feet down, close to the old mango tree at the back of the property. How much money are we talking about? Adaeze asked, almost without meaning to. 11 million naira, Mr. Nwachukwu said. Adaeze's mouth felt open. She closed it. Then she opened it again. 11 million naira. Yes. And my family, my wife and my children are struggling. My wife is sick. My son is wasting away. The money that was supposed to help them is just sitting in the ground doing nothing. I've been searching for someone who could see me and hear me for 2 years. You are the first person. Please help me. Adaeze was quiet for a long time. She pressed her hands together. She thought about everything her pastor had taught her about discernment. She thought about the spirits of deception and the tricks of the enemy. She also thought about the man's sad eyes and the way he had said 2 years like it was a very heavy weight. How do I know this is real? She asked. How do I know you are who you say you are? You do not know, the man said honestly, but you are the only one who can check. Go to the land behind the church on Agu Street. If there is nothing there, then you have lost nothing but a little time. If the money is there, then you will know. Adaeze nodded slowly. Okay, I will need a shovel. The man almost smiled. Yes, you will need a shovel. And I cannot go like this, Adaeze said, looking down at her church clothes. Let me change first. The man nodded. Take your time. The dig. Adaeze borrowed a small hand shovel from the garden tools of their neighbour, an old man called Mr. Ifeanyi, who kept a vegetable patch at the back of the building. She told him she wanted to plant something. He did not ask questions. She changed into an old pair of jeans and a loose shirt and put on her rubber slippers. She told nobody where she was going. Emeka was still asleep. Lisa had already gone to her POS stand. Their mother was resting. The land behind the church on Agu Street was not far. It took about 15 minutes to walk there. Mr. Nwachukwu walked beside her the whole way, though to anyone who saw her, she was walking alone. That man is looking at you, Mr. Nwachukwu said at one point. Let him look, Adaeze muttered. The land was overgrown with grass and small bushes. A rusty iron fence surrounded part of it, but one side was open. The mango tree was easy to find. It was old and wide, its trunk twisted and dark with age. The ground around it was softer than the rest of the land, which Adaeze found strange. Here, Mr. Nwachukwu said, pointing to a spot about 3 feet from the tree's trunk. Adaeze looked around. There was nobody watching. She began to dig. The ground was hard at first, but after a few inches it became softer. She dug steadily, moving the soil aside carefully. She had been digging for about 20 minutes when the shovel hit something solid. A hollow sound rang out. Her heart jumped. She dug faster now, clearing the soil away from the sides. After another few minutes, she could see the top of a metal container, dark and rusted, but intact. She worked until she could get her hands around it, then pulled it out. It was heavy. She sat down in the dirt, breathing hard, and stared at it. The lid was sealed with a simple latch that had rusted shut. She worked at it with the edge of the shovel until it gave way. Inside, wrapped in thick black polythene bags and then in more layers of a strong waterproof material, was a stack of Naira notes. Old notes, some of them, mixed with newer ones. She did not count it then, but it was a lot. She could see that even without counting. "It is all there," Mr. Nwachukwu said, standing over her. His voice was steady, but his eyes looked relieved. "Every Naira I saved over 20 years. Adaeze carefully wrapped the container back up and placed it in the large bag she had brought with her. She covered the hole back up with soil, smoothing it over as best she could. Then she stood, dusted herself off, and started walking home. "You need to take the money to my family," Mr. Nwachukwu said as they walked. "I know," Adaeze said. "But first I need to go home and clean up, and then I need to figure out how to explain this to anyone who asks." Chapter 5, The Temptation. When Adaeze got home, she went straight to her room and locked the door. She sat on her bed with the bag between her feet and opened it. She counted the money. When she was done, she counted it again. 11,400,000 Naira. The extra 400,000 made her smile faintly. Mr. Nwachukwu had been a careful man. She was still sitting there when Emeka walked in without knocking, as was his habit. He stopped when he saw the bag of money on the bed. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he walked forward and picked up one of the bundles of notes and looked at it like he could not believe what he was seeing. "Adaeze." His voice was completely different from his usual lazy tone. "Where did this money come from?" "Put it down, Emeka." "I asked a question. Where did you get this money?" Lisa appeared in the doorway. She had just returned from her POS stand. She took one look at the money on the bed and her eyes went wide. "Sister Grace," she said, using the name their church members used for Adaeze. "Where did you get all this money?" "If I told you, you would not believe me," Adaeze said. "Try us," Emeka said, sitting down uninvited on the edge of her bed. "So," Adaeze told them, she told them about Mr. Nwachukwu on Okafor Road. She told them about him appearing in their house that morning. She told them about the land behind the church on Agu Street and the metal container buried under the soil near the mango tree. She told them all of it. There was a long silence when she finished. Then Emeka started laughing. It was not a mean laugh. It was the laugh of a man who cannot process what he is hearing. "A ghost gave you 11 million Naira. His name is Mr. Nwachukwu," Adaeze said quietly. "Sister Grace," Lisa said carefully, "I hear what you are saying, but you have to understand how this sounds. Ghost or no ghost, the fact is that this money is in your room right now. And the fact is that Mum is in a hospital bed right now, and the doctor said she needs an operation." The air in the room shifted. Adaeze had not told them yet that their mother's condition had gotten worse. It happened that afternoon, while Adaeze was at the land on Agu Street. Mrs. Chioma had collapsed. Emeka, in a rare moment of panic, had called Lisa, and together they had rushed their mother to St. Joseph Hospital. The doctor had examined her and delivered news that none of them had been prepared for. "Sigmoid volvulus," the doctor had explained, in the calm voice of a man who delivers bad news regularly. "It is an abnormal twisting of the large intestine. It disrupts blood flow and normal bowel movement. It is serious. She needs surgery as soon as possible. The cost will be approximately 11 million Naira, all charges included." Emeka had gone pale. Lisa had bitten her lip so hard, it left a mark. They had scraped together everything between them. Emeka had 300,000 naira that he had been saving quietly. Lisa had her POS earnings, 250,000. Together, it was not even a fraction of what was needed. Do you understand what I'm saying, Sister Grace? Lisa said now, her voice very controlled. Mama needs this money, the exact amount. God has brought this money right to you. How can you say we should give it to a stranger's family? Adaeze looked at the money. Then she looked at her sister. Then she looked at Emeka, who for once was not making jokes. He was looking at her with the most serious expression she had ever seen on his face. She felt the pull. She would have been lying if she said she did not feel it. 11 million naira was sitting right in front of her, and her mother was in a hospital bed fighting for her life. The temptation to say yes was real, and it was strong. But she closed her eyes. She thought about the pastor's words that he had told her just the other day, almost like he had known something. Money is good. Fame is good. Integrity pays, but a good name is the best. This money is not ours, she said quietly. You are joking, Emeka said. It does not belong to us. It belongs to Mr. Nwachukwu's family. I agreed to take it to them. I cannot break that agreement just because it is convenient for me. Convenient? Lisa stood up from where she had been sitting. Sister Grace, Mama could die. Does that mean nothing to you? It means everything to me, everything. But I cannot do what you are asking. God always has a way. He will make a way for Mama. But I cannot build that way on someone else's suffering. If I take this money, Mr. Nwachukwu's family suffers. They are already suffering. I cannot add to their pain. Lisa walked out of the room without another word. Emeka stayed for a moment longer, looking at his sister. If Mama dies, he said, I will not forgive you. He left. Adaeze sat alone with the money and her thoughts. She did not sleep well that night. The church on Agu Street. Early the next morning, Adaeze was at the hospital. She sat with her mother for a while, holding her hand. Mrs. Chioma was awake, but very weak. She could barely speak above a whisper. The doctors had made it clear that time was running out. The twisting of the intestine was getting worse. Without the operation, her organs would begin to fail. Adaeze prayed over her mother quietly, not the loud, commanding prayers she usually prayed, but a soft, personal prayer, the kind that comes from a place of deep fear and deeper faith. Lord, I trust you, she whispered. I do not know how you are going to fix this, but I trust that you will. I am doing what I believe is right. Please do not let my mother pay the price for my obedience. Her mother squeezed her hand. My daughter, she said, Mama, rest. I want to tell you something. Mrs. Chioma's voice was like dry leaves. When your father was sick, I was so angry with God. I fasted, I prayed, I called on his name day and night. And then your father died in my arms. I stopped believing after that. I told myself God was a lie. Mama, you do not have to say this now. Let me say it. I need to say it. She paused to catch her breath. But God never left me, even when I left him. I see it now. I see how he kept us. I see how he gave me children like you, even when I had turned my back on him. Her eyes grew wet. I am sorry I lost faith. I am back now. I am back. Adaeze wiped her own eyes. He never left you, Mama. He never did. She stayed until the doctor came for his rounds, and then she left, walking quickly, the bag tight in her hand. The church on Agu Street was not the same church where Adaeze worshipped. It was a different congregation, a quieter one that met in a modest hall with white painted walls and a wooden cross above the entrance. Mr. Nwachukwu had told her to ask for a man called Emmanuel who would be inside praying. Adaeze walked in through the open door. The inside of the church was cool and smelled of old wood and dust. At the front of the hall, a man was kneeling in prayer. He was about 50 years old, with the kind of face that looked like it had seen a great deal of difficulty, but had come through it without becoming bitter. Excuse me, Adaeze said softly. Are you Mr. Emmanuel? The man opened his eyes and turned. Yes, that is my name. How can I help you? I was sent by someone, Adaeze said. She reached into her bag and then stopped. The bag felt lighter than it should. She looked in. Her hand searched. The container was gone. She turned around. She looked at the floor. She had it just moments ago. She'd been holding it. "What is missing?" the man asked, standing up. "The bag," Adaeze said, confused and frightened. "I had a bag. It was right here." She looked back at the door. Mr. Nwachukwu was standing there, but he was not looking troubled. He was looking at her with a calm expression, almost gentle. "Emmanuel," he said, though only Adaeze could hear him. "God is with us. That is the meaning of his name." Then a voice spoke that was not Mr. Nwachukwu's and not the man called Emmanuel's. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It was deep and steady and full, like the voice of someone who does not need to raise their voice to be heard. "My daughter," the voice said, and Adaeze felt her knees go weak. She held on to the back of a pew to steady herself. "Today you have shown a level of integrity that is rare. Like Abraham, who was willing to give up that which was most precious to him in obedience, you chose to do the right thing even when it cost you the most. It is written, 'He that loves his life shall lose it, but he that loses his life in my service shall find it.'" The church was completely silent. "Rise, my daughter," the voice said. "Rise." Adaeze stood up slowly. The man called Emmanuel was watching her with wide eyes. "What just happened?" he whispered. Adaeze had no words. She simply stood there, trembling slightly. "The miracle!" She ran back to the hospital. She ran as fast as her legs could carry her, not caring that people were staring at her on the street, not caring that she had no money, not caring about anything except getting back to her mother. When she arrived, breathing hard and with dust on her shoes, she found Emeka and Lisa standing outside their mother's room. Lisa was crying. Emeka's face was grey. "What happened?" Adaeze grabbed Lisa's arm. "Lisa, what happened? Talk to me." Lisa could barely speak. Emeka turned away. "Mama!" Lisa started. The door to the room opened and a doctor stepped out. He was not the same doctor as before. This one was younger, with glasses and a clipboard, and the expression on his face was not the grave expression Adaeze had expected. "Are you the family of Mrs. Chioma Eze?" he asked. "Yes," Adaeze said. "Yes, we are. What is happening? How is she?" The doctor looked at his clipboard and then at them. "I have good news," he said. None of them moved. "We ran new tests just now because the anesthesiologist wanted to check her vitals before the surgery," the doctor continued. "The results came back, and I have to be honest with you, I have never seen anything like this in my career." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "Your mother's intestines, the volvulus is gone. The twisting has completely corrected itself. Her vital organs are functioning normally. Her colon and intestine look as if they were never affected at all." He paused. "I cannot explain this medically. I genuinely cannot. There will be no need for surgery." Nobody spoke for a full 10 seconds. Then Emeka made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a cry. He put his hand over his mouth. Lisa grabbed Adaze's arm and held it tight. Adaeze herself stood very still, and 2 tears ran down her face, one after the other. "Can we see her?" Adaeze asked. "Yes, of course," the doctor said, stepping aside. Mrs. Chioma was sitting up in bed. She was still thin and still pale, but her eyes were open and alert, and the yellowish colour in her skin had faded. When her children walked in, she looked at them and said, "What took you so long?" Emeka broke down completely. He walked to his mother's bed and held her hand and said things in a jumbled, broken way about how sorry he was and how he was going to be different now and how he had been a fool for so long. Mrs. Chioma patted his head like he was still a small boy. Lisa sat on the other side and held her other hand. Adaeze stood at the foot of the bed and looked at her family. She felt something in her chest that was hard to name, and it was not just relief, though it was that. It was not just joy, though it was that too. It was something deeper. It was the feeling of a person who has just seen with their own 2 eyes that the thing they believed was real. Later, when their mother was sleeping and Lisa had gone to buy food from a shop nearby, and Emeka had stepped out to make a phone call, Adaeze sat alone in the room. Mr. Nwachukwu was there too, standing by the window. "Your mother is going to be fine," he said. "I know," Adaeze said. "Thank you for not using the money," he said. "I know what it cost you to make that choice." Adaeze looked at him. "What will happen to the money now? You said your family needed it." "Emmanuel will find a way to reach my family," Mr. Nwachukwu said. "The money is with him now. He is a trustworthy man. He knows my son." "And what about you?" Adaeze asked. "What happens to you now?" The old man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I can rest now. I've been carrying this for 2 years. Now I can rest." He looked out the window. When Adaeze looked back at where he had been standing, a moment later, he was gone. Emeka finds his way. The days that followed were quieter in the house on Mbaiki Street. Mrs. Chioma was discharged from the hospital 4 days after the miracle, as the family had started calling it. She came home looking better than she had in months. The doctors had advised rest and a proper diet, and for once, all 3 of her children worked together to make sure she had both. Emeka was the most changed. The night of their mother's recovery, something had broken open in him. He had sat outside in the backyard for a long time alone, and when he came back inside, his eyes were red, but his face was calm. He did not say much that night, but the next morning he was up before everyone else. He cleaned the kitchen without being asked. He threw away his remaining cigarettes. He told his mother he was sorry for everything. He meant it. That much was clear. In the following weeks, Emeka began looking for work in a serious way for the first time in years. He used his saved 300,000 naira to register a small logistics business, helping shops and traders transport goods within the city. It was hard work and the pay was not much at first, but Emeka threw himself into it. He woke up early, he worked late, he stopped drinking, he stopped wasting his days with idle talk and empty plans. Lisa watched all of this with something between disbelief and quiet gratitude. She had always loved her brother, even when she could not stand him. Seeing him try, really try, was something she had given up hoping for. She started helping him with the paperwork for his business in the evenings, and slowly they began to talk again the way they had when they were young. Their mother watched all of this from her chair by the window, where she liked to sit in the afternoons. She said little, but sometimes when she thought no one was looking, she could be seen with her eyes closed and her lips moving quietly. She was praying. "I thought you did not believe anymore," Adaeze said to her one afternoon gently. Mrs. Chioma opened her eyes. "I encountered him," she said simply. "When I was in that hospital bed, I was very weak. I thought it was the end. And then I felt something, like a hand on my shoulder, very real, very calm, like someone telling me it was not time yet." Now she paused. "I am not going to argue about what it was. I know what it was." Adaeze nodded. She did not push further. The pastor of New Life Evangelical Church, Pastor Obina, came to visit Mrs. Chioma at home one Sunday after service. He sat with the family for an hour, praying with them and talking. Before he left, he pulled Adaeze aside. "I don't know exactly what happened," he said, "but I sense that God used you in a significant way recently. I want to tell you something. Do not ever stop doing the right thing, even when it is the hardest thing. Integrity is rare. Guard it carefully." Adaeze thanked him. She thought about the voice she had heard in the church on Agu Street. She had not told anyone about it except for Mr. Emmanuel, who had witnessed it himself. She was not sure she would ever tell anyone. Some things were meant to stay between a person and God. A few days after the pastor's visit, something else happened that Adaeze had not expected. The phone call. It was a Tuesday morning. Adaeze was in the kitchen making tea when her phone rang. It was a number she did not recognize with a Lagos area code. She almost did not answer it, but something made her pick up. "Good morning. Is this Adaeze?" The voice on the other end was formal and professional. "Yes, this is her." "Good morning, Miss Ease. This is calling from Zenith Global Consulting, our Lagos head office. My name is Mr. Adaeze. We received your CV some time ago, submitted through our online portal. I am calling to inform you that we have reviewed your application and we would like to invite you for an interview. Adaeze set down her tea mug. An interview? Yes, ma'am. We are looking to fill the position of a community engagement officer. Based on your profile and the experience you described in community outreach and public communication, we believe you could be a strong candidate. The interview will be at our Enugu branch office on Monday. Does that work for you? Adaeze had submitted that CV over 8 months ago, during a brief period when she had decided she should try to find formal employment. She had sent it to several companies and heard nothing from any of them. She had mostly forgotten about it. Monday, she said. Yes, that works for me. Excellent. I will send you the details by email. We look forward to meeting you. When she hung up, she stood in the kitchen for a long moment, not moving. Then she walked slowly to the living room where Lisa was watching television. Lisa, she said. Lisa did not look up. I just got a job interview. Zenith Global Consulting, Community Engagement Officer, Monday. Lisa looked up. What? They called me. They said they reviewed my CV and they want to interview me. Lisa stood up. She stared at her sister. Then she walked forward and grabbed her by both arms. You sent that CV months ago, Lisa said, voice rising. Months ago, and they are calling now. On Monday. Lisa let out a scream of joy and grabbed her sister in a hug that nearly knocked her over. From the back of the house, Emika's voice came. What is happening? Who is dead? Nobody is dead, Lisa shouted back. Sister Grace got a job interview. Emika came running. When they told him, he lifted Adaeze off her feet entirely. Mrs. Chioma, who had been resting in her room, appeared in the doorway with a smile on her face. Was I not telling you? She said, though she did not look like someone who had once doubted. She looked like someone who had always known. Adaeze laughed until her eyes were wet. Then she sat down and checked her email. The details were there. Monday, 10 in the morning, Enugu branch of Zenith Global Consulting. Full details of the role, the salary range, the requirements. She read it twice. Then she closed her eyes and said a prayer that was only 2 words long. 2 words that felt like they carried the weight of everything she had been through in the past weeks. Thank you. She went for the interview on Monday. She was not nervous. She had spoken to more people on the streets of Enugu than she could count, had knocked on strangers' doors, had addressed small crowds with nothing but a Bible and her voice. An interview was nothing. She got the job. What remains? 3 months after everything that had happened, the house on Mbaiki Street was a different place, not in its structure or its peeling walls or its still leaking roof, but in the feeling of it. A house is shaped by the people inside it, and the people inside have changed. Mrs. Chioma had recovered fully. Her weight was back. Her color was back. She moved around the kitchen in the mornings like she used to when the children were young, humming old church songs to herself and telling Emeka to stop eating before the food was ready. Emeka's logistics business was small, but it was growing. He had bought a second-hand motorcycle and hired a young boy to help with deliveries. He was still learning. He made mistakes, but he was learning from them, which was more than could have been said a few months ago. He had also started attending New Life Evangelical Church with his sister. He sat in the back and did not make noise, but he was there every Sunday. Lisa had used some of her POS earnings to buy new equipment and was thinking of expanding to a second location. She and Adaeze had grown closer in a way that the years of tension had not allowed before. They talked more, they argued less, they cooked dinner together on Thursday nights and watched television until late, and Adaeze had started her new job. The work suited her in a way she'd not imagined a formal job could. Community engagement officer meant that she went out into communities, spoke to groups, organized programs, built connections between organizations and ordinary people. She was good at it. Her manager said in her first month review that she was one of the most natural communicators he had ever worked with. Adaeze nodded and said thank you, but inside she had thought, I learned this on Okafor Road. She still went for evangelism. Not every day now because of the job, but on Saturdays she was back on the streets with her flyers and her Bible. She could not stop. She did not want to. It was part of who she was. One Saturday afternoon, she was passing the spot on Okafor Road where she had first seen Mr. Nwachukwu. She paused for a moment. The street was the same as it always was, noisy and busy and full of people who had their own stories. She stood there for a moment, just looking. She thought about the old man and the sad weight in his eyes. She hoped that wherever he was, he had found rest. She hoped his family had gotten the money from Mr. Emmanuel and that it had helped them. She had asked Mr. Emmanuel about it once, going back to the church on Agu Street to check. He had looked at her with a knowing expression and said that yes, Mr. Nwachukwu's family had been found, and yes, the money had reached them, and that the family had been so overwhelmed they had wept for a long time. Did they know how the money came? Adaeze had asked. They knew enough, Mr. Emmanuel had said. She had not pushed further. She thanked him and left. Back on Okafor Road, Adaeze shifted her bag of flyers on her shoulder and kept walking. A young man was standing nearby, talking on his phone. She waited until he was done and then approached him. Good afternoon. I am inviting you to our 3-day crusade. Come and be blessed. Your life will not remain the same. The young man looked at her, then at the flyer. He took it. What time does it start? He asked. Adaeze smiled. She told him. She kept walking. There's a kind of person who moves through the world believing that there is more to it than what the eye can see. Such a person does not always have proof. Sometimes they are laughed at. Sometimes their own family cannot understand them. Sometimes the things they believe cost them greatly, in comfort, in money, in ease. But there are moments, rare and clear as clean water, when such a person is shown something that makes all the costs feel small. A voice in an empty church, a doctor saying he cannot explain what he is seeing, a phone call from a company that had gone quiet for 8 months, a mother sitting up in a hospital bed asking what took so long. Adaeze was that kind of person. She had always been. And now, with a job she loved and a family that was healing and a faith that had been tested in the fire and came out stronger, she walked the streets of Enugu with the same quiet confidence she had always carried. She did not have all the answers. She knew that. She knew that good people suffered. She knew that prayers were not always answered the way you hoped. She knew that faith was not a guarantee of easy outcomes. Her mother's own journey had taught her that, but she also knew what she had seen. And what she had seen was enough. It was more than enough. She kept walking, her flyers in her hand, and the city loud around her, and she was not afraid. Chapter 11, the end of one story, the start of another. 6 months after the day Adaeze had dug up the metal container from the soil near the mango tree on Agu Street, she received a visitor she had not expected. It was a Sunday afternoon. The family had just returned from church. Mrs. Chioma was in the kitchen with Lisa, and a maker had gone to check on one of his delivery riders. Adaeze was sitting at the table writing in her journal when there was a knock at the door. She opened it to find a woman standing there. The woman was about 40 years old, dressed neatly in a dark blouse and a long skirt. She had a boy with her, maybe 12 or 13 years old, who stood close to his mother and looked at the ground. The woman's eyes were red, as though she had been crying recently or had been crying for a long time and had not fully stopped. Are you Adaeze? The woman asked. Yes, Adaeze said carefully. Can I help you? My name is Mrs. Ngozi Nwachukwu, the woman said. This is my son, Tobena. I believe you knew my late husband. Adaeze stood very still. Then she stepped back and opened the door wider. Please come in, she said quietly. They sat in the living room. Mrs. Chioma came out to greet them and brought cold water, then went back to the kitchen without asking questions. She could tell from Adaeze's face that something important was happening. Mrs. Nwachukwu spoke first. Mr. Emmanuel from the church on Agu Street came to us some months ago. He brought us the money. He told us that a young woman had brought it to him, that she had been led to it by someone she had seen, someone no one else could see. She paused. He told us the name, your name. Adaeze said nothing. I want you to know, Mrs. Nwachukwu continued, her voice steady but full, that money changed everything for us. My son here was about to drop out of school because I could not pay his fees. I was 3 months behind on the rent. I had not been to the doctor in over a year because I could not afford it. That money gave us back our lives. The boy, Tabena, looked up for the first time. He had his father's eyes, quiet and serious. My husband was a good man, Mrs. Nwachukwu said. He worked hard his whole life. He just never had the chance to tell us what he had saved. When he died so suddenly, I thought that was the end of everything. She pressed her lips together. I spent many nights angry at God, asking why, getting no answer. Adaeze recognized those words. They were the same words her own mother had used. But God had not forgotten us, Mrs. Nwachukwu said. He just used a different road to reach us. He used you. Adaeze shook her head. I did not do anything special. I just did what I knew was right. That is exactly what special is, Mrs. Nwachukwu said firmly. Doing what is right when it costs you the most. Mr. Emmanuel told us that you had your own mother sick in the hospital when you made that choice, that you chose to do the right thing even then. She looked at Adaeze directly. Do you know how rare that is? Adaeze did not answer. She looked at Tabena instead. How is school? She asked the boy. The boy raised his head properly now. I came first in my class last term, he said. It was a simple statement, not boastful, just a fact he was glad to report. Adaeze smiled. Good, she said. Keep going. After they left, Adaeze sat back down at her table. Her journal was still open in front of her. She picked up her pen and sat for a long moment without writing. Then she wrote one line. She wrote, God sees everything, even the things we do when we think nobody's watching. She closed the journal. From the kitchen came the sound of her mother and Lisa laughing about something. From outside came the distant sound of a maker's motorcycle turning into the street, returning home. The evening light was coming through the window at an angle, warm and orange, the way it does in Enugu near the end of day. Adaeze sat in that light for a little while and let herself feel grateful. Not for what she'd received, though she was grateful for that too, but for something harder to name. For the fact that when the moment had come, when the choice had been in front of her and everything in her life had been pulling her toward the wrong answer, she had chosen right. That was not a small thing. That was everything. She had not heard from Mr. Nwachukwu since the day in the church on Agu Street. She did not expect to. His work was done and so was hers, at least that part of it. But sometimes on quiet evenings like this one, she felt something she could only describe as a presence, not frightening, not demanding, just there. The way sunlight is there, the way a kind word from a stranger stay with you long after they have gone. She believed it was peace, the real kind, the kind that does not come from having everything figured out, but from knowing that you are not alone and that the path you are on is the right one. Outside on the street, someone was calling out the name of a bus stop, and 2 children were running, and a radio somewhere was playing a song she did not recognize. Life was going on as it does, loud and crowded and full of people who had no idea what had happened on this street, in this house, to this family. And that was fine. Not every story needs an audience. Some stories are just between you and God. Adaeze got up, went to the kitchen and told her mother and sister to stop finishing the food before she got there. They laughed, she laughed too. That was how it ended, and that was how it began. The end of the story. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to this channel for more content like this. Make sure you drop your comment and share your thoughts with us. Thanks.